Hi, in this video we're going to start looking at putting text around an object or on an object using Blender. This is a question that gets asked quite a lot, so here's a video to help you, hopefully. There are three different kinds of surfaces to put text on. There are flat surfaces, there are curved surfaces, and there are other surfaces that we might want to wrap text around completely. Now we're going to cover all three of those. The technique for applying text is a little bit different in each one. But first, if you'd like to be notified of regular tutorials around Blender, then please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. Okay, so we're going to start with putting text on a flat surface, and here's our flat surface, and that's going to make life very easy for us. All we need to do is make sure that the object has the scale and rotation applied to it. Not necessarily necessary, but probably, and it's safe to do. So if we click on Object, Apply, Rotation and Scale, and then we're going to add some text. Now, text is a specific object that you can add in Blender. Add text. And there you have it. And it puts it over there. It's best not to move it, actually, in this case. And you'll notice that it's not really the right way around for this flat surface. So I'm going to rotate that with R along the x-axis 90 degrees, 90. There you go. Now over here you'll see that we have little a, which means that this is a text object. Let's see, it's up there, text object. A is all over the place. But this A is where we have some settings for the text. The first thing I'm going to do is change the alignment to the center and the vertical bit to the center as well. It's not necessary, but it just makes it easier to line things up later. So we have the text and we need to change it to something. So in edit mode, we'll change this to something very exciting, like some flat text. Very exciting. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into object mode and grab this along the y-axis and grab it along the x-axis. It kind of matches our text, but in this case it's a bit big. So we can either scale our cube, but maybe it'd be more interesting to scale the text over here. And then grab it with a G along the X, and there we go. You can probably just add a solidify modifier here. Give it some thickness. Move that back with G on the y-axis, and you've got some text stuck on your object. This is fine, but if you're 3D printing this, that's going to require lots of little bits and pieces of support, which you may be happy with, but I generally am not. So let me just undo that. So instead of doing that, I would normally do something like this. We have a text object, and the first thing we will do is move it closer to the cube with G and a Y up there. And then we convert this to a mesh. Object mode, object, convert, mesh. Now we have a mesh. Not very good topology, but we have it, and this will probably work. So now if we go into edit mode and select all the vertices with A, we can extrude them. And if I extrude with E, but do a shift and an X, so that it only extrudes along the y-axis or along the z-axis, and then just do this down, say, 45 degrees. It might actually be easier if we were here. Not a lot easier, to be honest. But yeah, that would do. That's approximately 45 degrees. Now you'll see that it's all gone red on my text, and that's because I have face orientation set to on, which I have to say I recommend wholeheartedly for everybody. If I go up here, not here, over here, over here, see face orientation is on. Now I have also got the blue part of face orientation turned to transparency, which is why not everything is blue, and I can just see the red. So this is no good, it will never work, it will never print, so we have to change the normals back to the right way around. Now, in case you don't know, red normals mean the inside, and grey, or transparent in this case, mean the outside. And so what we're seeing here is that all the text is inside out. It's easy to fix. In edit mode, press A and Shift N. Okay, it's that way around. And now, if I go into object mode and grab this along the y-axis, stick it in my model, I now have text on a flat surface, which probably doesn't need supporting. Of course, what you can do instead, once you have your text in there, is select the model with the flat face, select your model, and you can add a boolean, and you can do a difference with the text. Okay, and now if I remove the text, you should be able to see that it's actually indented. That probably wouldn't need supporting either. But there you go, that's the simple way of putting text on a flat object. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at putting text on a curved surface, and for that I've chosen a model I had lying around somewhere, which is this heart. Yeah, has a nice curved surface. So we start in pretty much the same way as we did before. We want to apply the scale and rotation to this object, just to be on the safe side. So object, apply, rotation and scale. So now we've applied our scale and rotation, we should probably move the 3D cursor to the surface of this object. And we do that with putting the mouse where we want it to go and do a shift and right click. And there we go, 3D cursor comes in. So now we're going to add some text in the same way as we did before. We click on add and some text. And again, it's rotated. So R for rotate, X 90, and that puts it back there. And we go through the same procedure as last time. Down here, click on the A, find the alignment, center, center. So now we need to actually put our text in. So in edit mode, what are we going to put in here? Say the surface. Oops. I can't see it because it's actually inside the heart here. I can turn the heart off for this. The surface of the heart. And go back to object mode. Turn the heart back on. It's going through the heart, which don't really want that. So we grab that G, Y. There we go. Put it quite close to the surface if you can. Now this is a bit big. It wraps round quite a lot, and that's for the next part of this tutorial. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit by changing the size. And just for fun, we'll move it up a bit. Grab the G and Z, up there. That's a little bit better. Now, with the text in front of the object, what we're going to do is add a modifier to it. We're going to add the shrink wrap modifier, which is here. Now you want to set this to project, outside surface, make sure negative and positive are selected, and for the axis, we'll say Z. And now we have a target of the heart. And there you go. We have it neatly on the surface. Now you can put a little offset down here to move it off the heart a bit. And you can move it along. If we grab X, you see it nicely follows the surface of the heart. But you can see what would happen if we were going to wrap around the heart. It would kind of break it completely. So we're not doing that, not to the next bit anyway. So there we have it. Now again, you could do, as was suggested in the last section, we can add a solidify modifier, give it some thickness, and it's into the surface of the heart, and that may be what you want. Now you can see here that there are some artifacts. This is as I was mentioning before. These can be fixed afterwards. It's a lot of work, but we're not going to do it this way anyway. So turn the solidify off, and we still have the shrink wrap here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to convert this to a mesh. Probably apply the shrink wrap modifier first, but it's actually not necessary because it will get applied if we do this. So let's go Object, Convert, Mesh. See? And now we have a text object just above the heart. Probably a little bit too close, but doesn't really matter. And we will do the same as we did last time. We will go into Edit mode, select everything, and I'm going to extrude Shift X. So E, Shift X, so that it doesn't go backwards and forwards, it stays on the same plane, and we go down about 45 degrees, which again would be easier to see if I was up here. Probably not, but if I want to bring this further down, I can just press G, Z, and it will come down a bit further because they're already selected. But I have the same problem with my normals, so press A, Shift N, puts them back together. Now you see in object mode, we don't have those same artifacts if we do it this way as we did with the solidify modifier. It's not to say you can't get them, but they're much less likely to get them. So there we go. We're basically the same as we were before. So we have text on a curved surface. That would be 3D printable without supports, probably. I don't want to guarantee anybody that, but it should print without supports. And again, if we select our object, add a Boolean, the difference on the text, and turn off the text. So that's not big enough. So let's go, we turn the text back on, just turn the Boolean off here because it tends to make things a little bit quicker. Select the text, go into edit mode, and we need to grab these faces, the front faces or the back faces, and that can be a little bit of a pain, it has to be said. So I don't think I'm really going to bother. What we'll do instead is just grab the text, G along the Y, we'll put it further into the model, and then we turn the Boolean on. And it comes on, turn the text off, and there you go, we have text along a curved surface. Okay, so let's try putting some text around an object, and for that we're going to use this square. Procedure is completely different for this than it is for the other things that we have done. So let's start. Here we have our cube, and the first thing to do, of course, is to apply the rotation and scale. So do that. Now, what we need to do is we need to create a curve around this. Curves are a bit scary for people who are new to Blender, but they're very useful tools and they're not scary at all. So let's add a curve, and we're going to create a curve circle, which is now sitting inside this cube. So if we go to our top view, our scale, we want to scale it so it's just around our object. Now you can scale it X, Y, Z. You can put it around to any shape you like to match your object, but this is a square, that will do. So now what we need to do is we need to apply the scale and rotation of our curve. Like text, the curve has some options down here too. This little green curve is the properties tab for curves. And here, all we really need to change is to remove this curve deform radius tick. Unselect that. It's not always necessary, but in some circumstances it will make the results better. We have to do a couple of things to this curve now. So we go into edit mode. And the first thing we'll do is go up to segments and switch direction. If you don't do that, the text will be going the wrong way around. And while we're here, we're going to subdivide it because it does need some geometry. Well, let's increase this up to 10. There you go, that's plenty now. Go into object mode and we're going to add a shrink wrap modifier. Now you can see that there are some modifiers for curves, but not as many as for a mesh, but it does have a shrink wrap, so that's what we'll use. So we'll have this set to target normal project, outside surface, and then with the little pipette, select the cube or your model. And it should snap to the surface like that. I'm going to give it a little offset like that, and that should be okay. Now unfortunately we have to apply the shrink wrap or there will be problems later. So apply that, and now our curve kind of follows the shape of your model. I get these little circular bits when I do that on this curve. If anybody knows why it does that, because I don't, then please let me know in the comments. So we're nearly there now. All we need to do is add some text, add text. Have the same problem over here, so rotate with RX 90, and I will do this thing that I like to do, which is to change the alignment to center and the vertical alignment to center as well. Now we need to change our text in edit mode. Can't actually see it because there's a cube in the way and I can't be bothered to turn it off. So we'll say some words around a cube. Okay. I could be a little bit big. We'll see. I wouldn't suggest using the sizing option in the text properties here because that can cause some issues with the alignment of the text around the curve. But this is where we are. Right, we have our text. I am actually tempted to shrink that. So let's scale it down. S. That looks okay. And as we've done that, we're going to object, apply, scale. Now we have to convert this to a mesh. So with the text selected, object, convert, mesh. With the text still selected, we're going to add a modifier. We're going to add the curve modifier. So if we select this pipette and select the curve, there you go. Text goes around the object. And if with the text selected, we GX, grab X, we can move it around, and that goes around the cube. Lovely. Now we go into edit mode. I'm going to select all the points of the text with A and hit this little X thing, and I'm going to extrude Shift X so it stays on this plane, and then I'm going to pull it down a little bit like that. I'm guessing 45 degrees, but thereabouts. I have my normals the wrong way around again, so I will select them all. A, Shift N, and then we go back into object mode. We have text that will 3D print without supports, probably, going around a cube. Now, one thing you will notice, if I press X here, is there are some artifacts here. This was actually much better than I expected, but there are bits of the text that will cause problems in your slicer or whatever you want to do, because the normals are the wrong way around. It's a little bit broken. This is more often the case with complex fonts, but the reason for this is because it's trying to bend this text around this corner, and this text doesn't have much geometry. Ideally, you would remesh this so that it had really nice geometry, but we haven't, and there's no easy way to do that unless you want to buy quad remesher. But what we can do is we can add a subdivision surface modifier to the text, and then it looks nasty, and then move that above the curve, change it to simple, and increase the steps in the levels viewport to say 3, and it goes away. Gives it enough geometry for the letters to go around the corner. So grab X, it happily bends around the corner. If you'd like to learn how to put a photograph on an object such as a cube, then please select the video in the top right. If you want to learn to make a vase, and let's face it, everybody makes vases, there's a video in the bottom left that you might want to have a look at. Thank you for watching. I hope it was useful, and hopefully see you again.